There was always the possibility and the threat that someone was going to find me out and take my fucking head off. There was always that threat. I would wake up every morning. Is today the day?
Hello, welcome to Time the Podcast, where we enunciate all of our words because we're recording in the morning now and we don't drink alcohol.
Well, some of us don't drink alcohol even at night. There's really only one of us that drinks alcohol. It's not me. They'll probably figure out who it is. They're going to know it's you. We might as well just say so. They're going to know it's you. I mean, how many times have you opened a beer right on the podcast? So.
That has never been me. Was that compelling?
It's always been you. Every single time.
So, you want to talk?
Sure. What would you like to talk about? If you've been listening to us, you know that I don't get any prep time, so I don't know what we're talking about until I put this microphone on and P says go. So, hope you enjoy the fact that it's not scripted at all. We just talk from the heart.
I really like, you haven't heard the last episode, but I like this. I go, you said, what are we going to talk about, Pete? And I said, I'm going to let you decide. And you're like, oh, okay, no heads up.
Yeah, you got me.
I did just drop that on you.
Yeah.
You rolled with it.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, then we're going to talk about programs, right? Because I've been wanting to talk about that for some time. So, yeah, because we're always talking about the dark side, you know, the characters that I've met over the years and things like that, which is totally cool because those guys are a big part of my life. But I also, you know, I want to talk about the things that make prison, not just the characters, you know, and the people inside, but how it damages people and why it damages people and how fucking easy it would be to fix it. You know, those are the things that people need to know. Like someone wrote in and said they're not using their toilet to the full potential, right? So that's great that we're able to teach them what a fucking toilet is really for. People, you know, don't understand that it's not just, you know, to relieve yourself in. There's other uses for a toilet, right? So.
But you're separating them out. I feel like the programs and the counselors, they feed the dark side.
They do.
You know, it's they create the characters or enhance the characters or, you know.
Do they? Or is it the other way
both.
around?
Both. And also the lack of help creates the characters. So there are characters who come in who they are already, right? Like Mad Dog Sully. And then there are people who the system created, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're not a criminal when you get there, you will be when you leave because you have to live in that criminal society and there's no incentive for you to rise above the criminal society, you know, so you go along to get along, right? So, and everybody's a one-up, you know. Remember we talked about that, I think the last episode or episode before last, we talked about, yeah, but I'm stronger than you, so I get 2 fucking seats, but you only got 1 ass, motherfucker, you know? So why do you need 2 seats? But, you know, that's the one-up society that prison is. When I was on the street, I had a fast car. Oh, when I was on the street, I had 2 fast cars, and my father owned a garage, so I was able to make my car even faster than your one bullshit fast car. You know what I mean? And that's the society, and meanwhile, probably neither one of them, or neither one of us had a fast car.
Yeah.
You know, we probably had a smart car or something, you know, something used, but, or something we stole, right? But, yeah, but that's the society, the one-up society, and the counselors and the programs nurture that.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about the yard?
So what do you want to talk about the yard?
Is the yard a scary place?
I went to the yard for 41 years, and I was apprehensive every time I went to the yard. So yes, the yard is very scary because the yard is where it happens. There's probably a 30% percentage of the population that only goes to the yard if they're forced to. They have to go there to do something, like you have to go to the yard to go to commissary, or you have to go through the yard to go to work or to program and back.
You know what you never talked about? The barrels in the...
Oh, in Comstock.
Yeah, why do they have barrels in the yard?
It's surrounded by a 40-foot concrete wall. And there's gun towers at each corners of the wall, and then, of course, strategically along the walls, because the wall's so long, there's other gun towers. So every gun tower has a cop in it, and every cop has a weapon, an AR-15. And there's so many, because it's Gladiator School, there's so much violence in the yard. The way the cops break it up is they fire a shot overhead. So they'll crack off a shot on that AR-15, and that's your warning. That's the only warning shot you get. Drop onto the ground. So when you hear that gun go off, you fall on your face. If you're fighting and you have a weapon, you both throw it down and fall on your face because they're coming for you. The next shot's going into you. You know, they're going to shoot you next. So people in the town complained so much that there were so many stray bullets flying around town because these cops would just pluck a round off, and who knows where it's going. It's coming down someplace, you know. So people's cars were getting holes in them. I don't think anyone ever got hit with one, but they'd get holes in their roofs, their windows broken in their cars, and they're like, what the fuck is this? And it turns out it was the lead from these shots they were firing. So
wow.
The state decided, the town sued the state, and there was a town ordinance that said, you know, you can't fire a gun in city limits. So why are you guys firing guns in city limits? You're not law enforcement. You're corrections officers. You are not law enforcement. So they can't fire the guns over the walls anymore. So what they did is they painted 20-foot by 20-foot red squares strategically different places inside the yard in Comstock, and they placed these 55-gallon plastic drums in the center of these squares and filled them with sand and put lids on them. So now when there's something and they need to fire a shot, they fire it into those barrels. So they shoot the barrels now.
Do they accidentally miss sometimes?
Guys have been shot. I mean, I remember guys getting shot in Auburn with a ricochet because they would shoot into the yard in Auburn. They would just shoot into the blacktop. You didn't know where that round was going. So
holy shit.
yeah, so there was a couple of times that guys got hit. Yeah.
So you discovered what the yard is about and found your home there.
Yeah, because everybody, everything happens in the yard. Everything that was going on was in the yard. And I decided early on that I had met guys that had, to me at the time, they had 10, 15, 20 years in it. To me, I'm saying, oh my God, how the fuck do you do that much time, you know? So I kind of, those guys took me under the wing, you know, and taught me, you know, as soon as they found out how much time I was doing, you know, and how young I was, those guys stepped up and said, come on, you know, come with us and we'll, you know, they didn't say, come on with us and we'll teach you how to do time. They just did, you know. They said, come on, hang out. And they taught me to do time, and they taught me, you know, what works and what doesn't, and what it's okay to be and what it's not okay to be. And, you know, if you lose the respect for this reason, you'll never regain it, you know, and you need to gain respect in this area, and you need to gain respect in this area, and you need to gain respect in this area, because these things are the important things in this society, you know. Your courage doesn't mean shit on the street because you're just another guy driving a car, another guy walking down the street on the outside. On the inside, your courage means everything. You either have it or you don't, and it's okay not to have it, but play your position. Don't play a position where you play to have courage, and then when someone who's relying on you finds out they can't rely on you because you don't have the courage you claim you do, that's a problem for the rest of your bid. And if you got a long time to do, you're not gonna be comfortable. When you get a wire on you for being a coward, you're a victim the rest of your bid. That wire never goes away, and there's always somebody going, oh good, I can use a little extra commissary. So
yeah,
there's always a predator looking for a coward.
So when you first arrived at Auburn, did you stroll over to one of those courts, or how did you?
No, you know who's in the prison, who's new and who's not. After you've been there for 30 days, 60 days, you get to know who's there, and you notice the new guys when they show up. New guys just stand out. They always do. It's like a new haircut, right? So when you get there, you're on lockdown. You can't go to the yard. You have to see a sergeant first. You get a sergeant's interview, see if you have any enemies, if you want PC, blah, blah, blah. You see the nurse, and then you're out. You're good to go. So it usually only takes a day, maybe 2 days, and then you're in the yard. If you're just a brand new guy coming in, you haven't got any time in the system, probably nobody knows you, so you're on your own. If you've been in for a while, when you transfer, the word's already sent that that's where you're going. The word is there, and when you get there, there's usually a crew waiting to give you peanut butter, jelly, cigarettes if you smoke, something to drink, coffee, because you're not getting your property for a couple of days and you're not going to commissary for a week. So there's usually a crew there to give you soap, shampoo, and that kind of stuff, you know. But when I got there, nobody knew me because I was coming straight from Elmira from there. Elmira was the only place I'd been. So when I got to Auburn, I didn't know anyone. But I'm walking the yard. So I'm walking the yard, and this guy, they see me walking the yard for a couple of days, the bikers court, you know, and the crews. And they go, so one of them, Bobby Burnzat, calls me over and says, hey man, he says, how you doing? See you walking the yard, you just get here, and we talk for a little bit, and he goes, not for nothing, he says, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to tell me anything, but I'm going to ask you a question. You can either answer it or just walk off, and if you walk off, I'll never ask you a question again. He says, but what are you here for? And I told him murder second, 2 counts. And he said, okay, that's cool. He's checking to make sure I'm not a child molester or a sex offender, or something like that. But he actually said, well, come on, let's take a walk. And we talked and kind of got to know each other a little bit, and he said, are you coming back out tonight? And I'm like, sure, I've been in that cell. Of course I'm coming out, He said, all right, when you come out tonight, bring your papers. I'm like, what are you talking about? Bring my papers. He says, bring your papers, your commitment papers, why you're in prison, to prove that what you said was true. And if you bring your papers, he says, I'll introduce you to the rest of the guys on the court. You can hang out, get to know them, have some coffee. Maybe you get invited on, And that's how it starts.
So that's the next step. The first step is him sort of vetting you, talking to you, making sure you're not fucking crazy, walking you around the yard, chatting. And
right.
The second step is...
Because he's going to sponsor me. He's going to bring me to his crew and say, I spun the yard with this guy, his papers are this, paper that, I think he's a cool dude, And the guys will be, all right, cool. They shake your hand, introduce themselves, and you're hanging out. You get to know them, and if you fit, you fit. If you don't, you just kind of shy away. You don't start going over there. They figure it out. He doesn't fit. Something. So, and that's cool. So I came out that night, brought my papers, and I was on that court for the next 7 years.
Wow. Will you tell me about the tiers? Are there different levels of?
Yeah, there's castes. Now, first and foremost, I should clarify first of all that prisoners in general are the most conservative, bent-nosed cocksuckers you'll ever meet in general, because as soon as someone gets incarcerated and gets in prison, they're automatically better than somebody else. Yeah, I'm here because I did this, but that guy did that. So the child molesters, the sex offenders, the pedophiles, those are the bottom of the barrel. Those are the worst possible people. Doesn't matter if some of them could be innocent. It doesn't matter. If they have that label, they're the worst possible people in the world. So a guy who kicks in somebody's door, kicks in some old lady's door, slaps her around, steals her money, steals her jewelry, and runs out the door, he's automatically better than the pedophile, the sex offender. That's how the system works. So on the bottom layer is all the shit. Next layer is a little better. Next layer is a little better. And it's layer after layer after layer until you get to the top, or the elite prisoners, The guys who have either earned a reputation or have semi-victimless crimes. There's no victimless crime, obviously, but, the guys who don't prey on people, maybe the bank robbers, the guys who are robbing armored trucks, those kind of things, those are the cream of the crop guys. Those guys, they're against the man,
Yeah, so you said you protected your identity by not letting anyone find out what you were in there for. So how do people even know what people were in there for?
Well, there's a couple of ways to do it. Like, for instance, we should probably clarify why I protected, why I was in there for. We should first clarify that I am not a sex offender, that I didn't have that thing to run away from. But my crime was a very serious one. So I hid that. And there's ways to do that. Now, old school convicts know that if you cop out, let's say you go to trial, you've been in prison before and you get in trouble, and maybe you were in prison for a burglary, and then you get out and you get a sex crime, right? The old school convicts know how to hide that. And the way you hide that is you don't appeal your conviction. So you take a cop out, do your time, you don't appeal your conviction, because if you do not appeal your conviction, it doesn't go in the books. Nobody's ever going to be able to look you up because it doesn't exist. The way I did it is I was a law clerk. So whenever I would go into a law library, the first thing I would do is grab the tome that has my case in it and get rid of it. I'd take my case and 4 or 5 other cases out of it.
And do what with them? Just literally put them in the trash?
Yeah, throw them right through the shredder. So I would take a needle, because needles are super sharp. Needles are like razor blades to cut paper. And I would just open the binder and just take that needle and run it right around the papers and just pull the paper out one at a time. So you couldn't even tell they were missing. And I try to do it in such a way that the cases I were taking out wouldn't interfere with the case next. So people wouldn't necessarily even know that the cases were missing from the book. So nobody think to reorder the book because the book's fine. And that's what I would do sometimes.
Well, that's pre-internet, obviously.
True.
Now anyone can look at the Department of Corrections website and
Correct.
see what people are in there for.
But prisoners can't, but they can have their family do it. So that's what happens now. Is it's called running your numbers. So before internet, you had to bring your papers to the yard. You know, you bring your papers to the yard to see who you are. Now you bring your number, and somebody walks over to the phone while you're standing there, calls somebody on the street, and says, "What's this guy in for?" And they go to their computer, turn it on, look up New York State Department of Corrections, and bingo, there you are. What you're in for is right there. So it's...
Yours says 2 counts of murder.
Yeah, that was my conviction.
2 counts of murder, first degree.
Second.
Second degree?
Yeah. First degree is capital crime.
Yeah.
First degree has to be a police officer. Or depraved indifference.
Wow, but didn't you have a story that you were a bank robber when you were younger?
Yeah, that was my story. So I knew I actually knew some of the Brinks robbery guys. So I had information that other people didn't have, you know. So I used that little bit of information to build this whole case of why I was in prison. You know, this whole thing about bank robberies and armored cars, and that's who I was. I was a bank robber / armored car guy. You know, that was my case. Wow. So I lived at that facade for 40 years.
Wow.
That's my life, P. You know, I say that I spent my life in there trying to make the best life that I could make in there, right? And I did. I really did. I wasn't in trouble every day. I wasn't looking over my shoulder every single moment. But it wasn't a life. It wasn't good. There was always the possibility and the threat that someone was going to find me out and take my fucking head off. There was always that threat. You know, I would wake up every morning. Is today the day? You know, so it was very stressful. It wasn't a good life, but I lived it the best I could, right? So some of it was humorous. You know, you come out of this deep, dark hole, this terrible pit of whatever it happens to be, and then there's this light of humor. Would you like to hear a story about David Woods? It's kind of funny and it's kind of sad. Would you like to hear it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so David Woods was doing time for murder. He walked in on his wife having sex with her lover. She was having an affair, and he murdered both of them with a shotgun. Wow. So he got life, of course. He's out now, but he got life. And but he became a trumpet player. So he would sit out in the yard for hours on end and play this trumpet. You know, have you ever heard a trumpet in real life? They're super loud. You can't play them soft unless you have a mute, you know? So he would just aggravate the whole fucking yard with this fucking trumpet, right? So one time he was playing the trumpet for like on a Saturday, and he must have been playing it for 4 hours already, you know? People were just like, "You fat fuck, shut the fuck up," you know? It was getting there. It was, you know, people were just, but that was normal. People telling him to shut the fuck up, right?
Yeah.
So he put his trumpet down on top of his case and went to the bathroom, which was probably 50 yards away to get to the bathroom. So he left his trumpet out and went to the bathroom. This guy comes running over with a weight and smashed the trumpet into little, just smashed it flat with a weight, okay. You know, so just smashed it flat right there on the case, flat like a plate. So when...
That's so sad. Yeah.
So when David Woods got back and seen it flat, I'm sitting about maybe 10 feet from him. And the guy who smashed it stayed there. And so he goes to the guy, he comes back and he sees his trumpet and he starts crying. He's got tears running out of his eyes, you know, because his trumpet's destroyed. And he turns to the guy with the weight in his hand and says, "Did you do that?" He had this baby voice, kind of voice thing, you know, and he was, you know, a big guy, but... And the guy goes, "Yeah, I'm tired of hearing that fucking thing. I told you time and time again to stop playing that fucking thing, blah, blah, blah," right? Dave goes, "Well, I guess I'm going to have to do something to you now." So he zips on his suit and proceeded to whoop that kid's ass, man. I mean, it was the funniest thing because it was a fat guy who couldn't fight, who didn't know how to fight, right? But he was just so mad. His suit was just zipped on so tight. There was no stopping him. You were not beating him. He was adrenaline. I don't know if he'd even ever had a fight before in his life, but he beat the piss out of that guy that smashed his trumpet.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like that.
So that's a true story of a guy zipping on a suit, you know.
Did he get a new trumpet?
He did get a new trumpet. He wrote at this guy named Jamie Embersol. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but Jamie Embersol has a worldwide music program like Gloria Estefan's music and that thing, Save the Music kind of thing. Prisoners write him all the time and say, you know, I'm this, I'm that, I'd really like to learn to play an instrument. And he'll send them instruments. He sends guitars. He'll just freely send you anything, you know. If you're a prisoner and you write to him and you convince him in your letter that you really want to learn, he'll send you a guitar or he'll send you a trumpet. So Dave wrote to him and explained to him what happened to his trumpet. And Jamie Embersol sent him a new trumpet. So he did get a new trumpet, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Unfortunately, wish we could have intercepted that letter. Yeah.
I like that.
He did finally get so he could play the thing. So we had him play in the band a couple of times just to do it, you know. But
I just took you down another big tangent. I'm sorry.
yeah,
The yard.
the yard.
It's literally just a fenced-in yard outside, right?
Depending on the facility that you're in, yeah, depending on where you're at. Like in Auburn, it's just behind a 40-foot wall, you know. You just leave the door and you step outside of the block and bingo, you're in the yard. You know, there's no transitional thing. You just walk through the door and there's the yard. So it's all blacktop and there's, you know, 1,000 guys out there and it's noisy and yeah.
I think I understand the structure of a crew. Who was your shot leader or shot leader?
The crew leader changed. It was by seniority. So when I first got there and got onto the court, it was Tramp. Tramp was running the court. So our court had the regular court and we had a weight court. Not many courts had weight courts. So we had our own court, which was 4 courts big. We had taken over 3 others right next to us. So if you can picture laying 4 of those tiles together, that was our court. And then down at the other end of the yard, we had 2 more, but it was all weight pits. So we had taken 4 courts, 2 weight pits. That was our territory. So it was a lot to run.
How did you have to take it by? Did you take it by force, or were people just like hands up in the air, like if I can take it, guys? Or
sometimes, or usually always.
This time it's like specifically, or you mean you had to take it piece by piece?
Yeah, you don't get it all at once, right?
Yeah.
So what would happen is, say there's Syracuse boys on the court next to ours, which they were. This has actually happened. So the court next to ours was Syracuse boys. Everybody from Syracuse, Buffalo, around that area, right? So they called it the Syracuse boys. They were pretty weak. But then they started going home, started getting transferred out, started turning into different things, and then they got down to just 1 or 2 guys, and we just stepped over to their court and said, listen, you know, you only got 1 or 2 guys over here, so we're just going to move these benches across, and this court is 2, you 2 can stay with us. So that's what we did. We just incorporate the court, incorporate the people with it. So they don't feel like they lost anything, they actually gained. Because now they have a crew and a bigger court. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's how we would do it for a couple of times. There was 1 or 2, there was one situation on the weight court, when the weight court next to ours belonged to the Spanish guys and it came open. Spanish guys got in a bunch of beefs and nobody was using the court, nobody was holding it down, so we just moved into it and took it. And then a few months later, 1 or 2 of them started coming out of the box and wanted it back, and you're not getting it. You can't even work out on it. Beat it. That's how you have to be. You can't even let them get a foot in it. You know, don't touch a dumbbell, don't touch a barbell, don't do a fucking pull-up. Just beat it. And that's how we took the court.
So every time you went outside to the yard, you just went to your court, directly
First
to
thing
your
first,
court?
you always go to the court first. There's always somebody on that court at all times. Because if anybody walks on that court that don't belong there, it's your job to get them off.
Oh my God. What about for that little guy, one of the 2 little guys who joined you guys? They have to defend that fucking place? Like,
don't swim with the fucking sharks if you're a guppy, man. See, that's the thing. You don't have to be on the court. You know, you can be a guest. You can stop by once in a while and just say hello, how you doing, man, and then go about your business.
what else is there to do? Is there just other areas to hang out?
Well, you can walk, you know, there's not really, I mean, you can go sit in front of the TV, you know, or go down there with the Jesus freaks. They'll always let just anybody sit with the Jesus freaks, you know.
In the yard?
Yeah, you know, so you can go do the Jesus freaks usually hung out by the TV down in the back in the south yard, so they would go hang out in there. You know, so you could do whatever you wanted to, you know, but if you chose to be on the court, and when you said, when I sat you down and I said, listen, man, the guys like you, I like you, you seem like a stand-up dude, we're going to invite you onto the court. You'd be like, oh, that's great, you know, I want to do it. hold on a second, before you accept, let me tell you the rules. And I would break it right down for you. Don't bring your fucking drug habit problems over here. If you buy drugs and don't pay for them, you're on your own. Period. Everybody. If you're the only guy on the fucking court, if you come out first, you stay here till somebody else shows up.
Wow.
Unless you got commissary, then you go straight to commissary. But when you come out of commissary, you come here. If there's nobody here, you stay here until somebody shows up. You know? And then, because you're the low man on the totem pole at that point, you're the new guy, right? You get the water for the coffee. Make sure you always bring out a thermos of boiling water. When you get out here, you go to the bathroom, fill up the 5-gallon bucket with water, set it on the court. So guys can rinse their coffee cups, blah, blah, blah. So I would just run all the rules down to them and say, now, do you want to be on the court? You don't have to. No hard feelings. You can come visit, just be a guest. Everybody likes you. But if you choose to be on the court and be in the crew, those are the rules.
How often do you get to go to the yard?
Every day.
There.
The yard would open at 5 o'clock in the evening or 6 and stay open till 10. So you're out till 10 o'clock at night. It would open at 8:30 in the morning and stay open till 11. And then it would open back up at 1 until 5. And then it would open back up, that's right, open back up at 6 until 10.
You guys had programs at different times?
All the programs ran in the daytime. The nighttime programs were volunteer programs or college programs. So the programs were daytime, just like a job, 8-hour jobs. You only worked 6, but it was just like a daytime job.
Okay, so you guys would be out there every night, basically. Right?
Every night, yeah. When I got off program at 3 o'clock, I would go straight to the yard from work, and I'd go right to the court every day. Drop my stuff off from work at the court, go down, get my hour workout, hour and a half, depending on what I was doing, and then go back to the court, hang out, drink coffee until they close the yard. Go inside, make something to eat, wait for the yard to open. Our yard opens back up, it's back outside, I sit on the court all night. Sit there till 10 o'clock.
Would you guys play games?
Yeah, we had cards, Scrabble, dominoes, pinochle, yeah.
Would they just stay out there on your court?
Yeah, because we had cabinets that we had built that had doors on them.
Ah.
So we had wooden cabinets that we built out of plywood, and we had them out on the court, and everything stayed in there. Coffee cups, coffee, creamer, sugar, everything stayed in the court. But that's why that's your house, man. That's your family dwelling, and that's why it's so fucking important to stand up for it.
Yeah, so these people like Jerry the Jew, he was there. Was he in one of those courts or was...
Yeah, he was on the Syracuse court.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Because Mad Dog didn't like him. Mad Dog didn't let him on his court.
Why did you... So Bruno, who was it who asked you to join? Who was the guy? Burnside?
Yeah.
His name is?
Yeah.
Why did he choose you?
Just something about me that he recognized, something that he liked, something in my demeanor that he recognized. And you're always looking for good guys to put on your court because you want a crew, you know what I mean? So if there's a stand-up guy walking the yard, you definitely want to invite him to have a seat, give him a cup of coffee, find out what he's about,
Let's do a status update.
Okay. Well, this week's been difficult. I had a tragedy, I guess, this week that made it quite difficult. This evil, wicked chick put a GPS device on me. So with this device on me during this week, I banged it on a piece of steel and the strap broke. And I was in full panic mode because that's instant violation. Cutting it off or not charging it is instant violation. And they make you sign a contract that says that. It's a violation not to charge it, and it's a violation to cut it off. So I was in full panic mode because I've got my life together. I'm finally living a life, and I was in full panic. All that before my eyes, I could see it all just going away. It was all just done. It was just all going away. So I jumped in my car and I drove straight to parole and walked right in and I held the thing in my hand the whole time, so it was in contact with my body the whole time, so that it would not go off. So I held it the whole time in my hand, so I never let it go. And I got in there and explained to them. I had already called them, told them I was coming, explained what happened as I was on the way. I was trying to do everything right. And then when I got there, it turns out I did do everything right, and I was fine. I was fine. They put a brand new one on me, not even the same old one. They put a brand new one on me and said, "You're fine. You did the right thing. You're good." So, but I thought my life was over. man, I was in full panic mode. So
You thought you were going back to prison.
I knew I was going back to prison. I called you and said the car's going to be here. If you don't hear from me, go get the car, or don't, just let them take it. I don't know, just whatever, But
You realize you've come a long way. It went from a couple months ago to where you were begging to go back, and now you were panicking about going back.
I hadn't thought about that, actually. You're right. Because my life's together. I'm happy.
Actually happy?
I actually feel happy. Therapy. Because my therapist is an ultra modern therapist, It's not like hey, lay on the couch and let me tell me your life story, right? It's not that. So he's just a normal guy who we just talk, and he'll ask me what's going on, and I'll tell him what's going on or what I'm feeling, and he can steer me into the places that are putting me in the places that I shouldn't be. And he can explain to me why I'm putting myself in these places.
The speed bump places?
The speed bump places. Like he told me, he said, you refuse to let yourself enjoy life. He said, your whole life you have been told that you are worthless and no good. And you don't believe you're worthy of a good life, a happy life. And then he systematically showed me what I was doing to prove that I wasn't worthy of a good life. So,
wow.
But it's therapeutic because when someone does that to you, or for you, I should say, when someone does that for you, you see it. You can't lie to yourself. You can't lie to yourself. So when someone does that to you, you know it immediately because it's in your head. And when someone points it out, you go, wow. You get chills. Man, I get chills, and and I'm like, wow, that's true, man. That's the deal. I'm doing that. And now, if I start to do that, I recognize it. And when I recognize it, I don't allow it. I say, I'm not going there. Not going to happen. Sometimes I'll start acting childish, spoiled. And when I recognize that, because now I recognize that, and I do the same thing, not going there, not going to happen. I just push it away. It doesn't take me 10 seconds. I'm off on a new tangent. I'm good. So, my friends have seen the change in me. Little said to me just yesterday, he said, man, you've changed. He said, I'm so proud of you. You are different. Because he knew me on the inside. He said, you are different. You've changed. I'm proud of you. Made me feel good. So status update, started out terrible, ended on a positive note. I'm in a positive place.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And good work.
Thank you. It is good work.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. But you have to be honest with yourself. That's the thing. You have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And when people who care about you tell you things, you got to pay attention. That is the most important thing in changing your life, is when the people who care about you, not just some fly-by-night person that you work with or something, but when someone dear to you says something to you and it clicks, you gotta pay attention, because there's more there than just you. There's more there than just your maintenance. There's that person's maintenance too. That person said that profound, truthful thing to you because it needs fixed. It needs fixed for that person, and it needs fixed for you. So you have to fix you, and in fixing you, you help to fix that person. So if you genuinely care for that person, the same way that that person genuinely cares for you, then you have to pay attention to those poignant statements. Poignant statements are key. And that's what my therapist says. You have to pay attention what's being said to you. And so now I not only pay attention, but when it's coming from someone dear to me, I take it to heart. And I make sure that I do not forget that lesson. And then I'm getting better. I'm growing. I grow every day. I feel better every day. I sleep at night.
Without any help?
No help. I don't take anything.
Wow.
I just sleep at night.
Nice.
I send a good night text to my friends, and I sleep at night.
How many hours?
I don't need a lot. Sometimes I'll sleep 4. Sometimes I sleep 8. On Saturday, this Saturday, I went to sleep at about, 10:30, 11 at night. I didn't get up till like 11 the next morning. I woke up about 5 o'clock, looked at the clock, got up, brushed my teeth, got back in the bed, and that was it. I didn't get back up until almost noon. So I'm sleeping.
That's great.
And
Oh
I
my
feel,
God.
I feel good, more energy.
Good. Thank you for tuning in.
Don't do the crime.
If you can't do the time,
Because
boss will tell you, you definitely can't do the time.
you definitely cannot do the time. And you never know, you might have to hang out on the Jesus Freaks court.
timethepodcast@gmail.com, right?
timethepodcast@gmail.com. That's correct.
We have not a link.
Not a link. All right.
Yeah. That's it.
That's it.
Sayonara, senoritas.
And seniors.
Sayonara, senoritas and seniors.
That's pretty good.
All of yous.
3 languages involved there. That's pretty cool.
The fuck is wrong with my mic? It's
Put on your diaphragm.
I don't have a diaphragm.
How do you not have a diaphragm? What are you, a fucking alien? Of course you have a diaphragm.
My body's not like yours.
You have a diaphragm, I promise you. You couldn't breathe, so you have a diaphragm.
Yours always sounds so much better than mine, and you're facing the wall.
Because it's fucking mine. Hello? What'd you expect? I mean, really? That's why you call me boss. Well, that's not, but people don't have to know that, why you really call me boss. You do have
a diaphragm.
You do, yes.
I moved the mic onto my diaphragm.
Not that kind of diaphragm. Get that out of there. What are you doing? It's a different diaphragm. Not there. Jesus. Are you blonde?
You are funny. No, I'm a bottle blonde.
Okay, that's different.